I ended my last video essay with a clip of a fellow creator on YouTube. I did this for two reasons. One, because I thought it'd be a punchy way of capping off that video, and two, because I wanted to discuss the clip in the future. So that would act as a lead into this video. I'll play it again to refresh your memory.
If you're someone who really loves your retro games and you're super pissed off that like modern day younger gamers aren't appreciating your N64 crap, learn to grow up and realize that the reason you love those games is because you grew up with them. That's just how we work as humans. Nostalgia is a thing, and that's fine, but don't bring other people down because you think your games are better or whatever the fuck. It doesn't actually matter. There are things in this world that do matter, and the debate of retro versus modern video games is not one of those things.
I'm not going to be tagging them because the topic at hand is larger than just this one person. I'm just using their clip as a jumping off point for the discussion. And frankly, I really don't want any of you to go to her channel and say some mean stuff or whatever. Not that that would happen because everybody that watches my videos are gentlemen and not Neanderthals, but better safe than sorry, I guess. I'll let one of you brave souls send this to her if you so please. Regardless, I take issue with her clip. Some might see the clip and think that there's nothing wrong with it. She's calling out jerks that hate on people for not liking their games. What's wrong with that? I've seen a lot of people get called a hater when they really don't deserve it. There's a difference between discussing something in an honest or constructive way and doing so because you're upset that people don't agree with you. There's a difference between challenging ideas that people have and just being mad. Although it hasn't happened to me many times, it is frustrating when somebody mischaracterizes your opinion on a piece of media, chalking it up to me just hating on new fans because I hate new things, or comparing me to somebody that it dishonestly argues a lot of the time. So during the production of my last video, while I was drinking wine and contemplating the greats of gaming history in a pretentious way, I realized that, as a connoisseur of the medium, we should totally encourage people to appreciate the classics. So I'm like 3 of these videos away from just straight up saying that video games are art, which would make my past self laugh, but like art, I think there is a way in which you can learn to appreciate it. I had a few art appreciation classes throughout my school years, and even though I can't repeat anything that was said to me in those classes, I'm pretty sure they are the reason why I can't admire things the way I do. It's probably why I believe that one needs to experience the whole piece, like I mentioned in my Ragnarok video. I have a healthy diet when it comes to my musical tastes. It ranges from things that I grew up listening to things that I absolutely did not, like not even close. Things that most people would find enjoyable.
Can you be a little bit stronger, baby? Oh, 'cause I need a little longer,
and things that they would absolutely not. I'm saying that we should try to do the same with games. I was born in the late 90s and didn't get to play anything from the 3rd or 4th generation of consoles until I was about in middle school. So how come I don't hate these games? How is it that the first Zelda is one of my favorites? How is it that I had a blast playing the first Metroid game, to the point where I played it 2 times in a row back in 2021? Why do I consider Super Mario World to be the best Mario game when I didn't grow up playing it? Shouldn't I think that of 64? Why do I think that perhaps Mario Wonder has surpassed World? The game is brand new. Shouldn't I not like it as much? I'm no longer in my childhood. When I first got into retro gaming, I didn't just start playing the games. I watched a ton of videos about them. Reviews, discussions, fun facts, things of that nature. Some call me Johnny, and the Angry Video Game Nerd were my introduction to a lot of these games. I knew more or less what to expect from the games before ever picking up the controller. I also do not have any delusions when it comes to my ability to play games in general. I'm not very good. So when a game is hard for me, I usually assume it's something on my end, and not because the game is too hard or simply unfair. I'm also a fairly patient person, I would say. I've seen too many people jump to blaming the game for their poor performance. Like, yeah, the controls are primitive by today's standards, but not unbeatable if you adapt. So, does it bother me that people don't appreciate retro games? Well, Yeah, a little. Like I mentioned, I consider myself a fan of gaming itself. I have respect for it. I find the idea of something being of lesser quality simply because of its age stupid. I find that people are too quick to dismiss old games because of the fact that they are old, before ever really giving the game a chance. It would be like if after I started playing DMC1, I quit and called the game crap because of its bad camera or the live system that I don't really care for. If I had done that, I would have missed out on the parts of the game that I have really enjoyed up to this point. I would have a limited picture of what the game is. But you shouldn't care what other people think about games, or care how they play them because reasons. I'm kind of preemptively reacting to this kind of comment, but I've seen it enough time in other videos to think it's worthy of tackling here. Here's a thought: why do you care about me caring about what other people do or think? If it's a bad thing to care about that sort of stuff, why are you allowed to do so, but not me? Why does anybody care about anything involving anybody else? The truth is that this is something that human beings do. We are social animals. Everybody to a certain extent cares about what others think, feel, or do. Some care a lot more than others, some care about very specific things and not at all when it comes to other stuff, but we all care. If somebody tells you that they just do not care about what others think about them or anything else, they are lying. If they really didn't care, they wouldn't care to mention it. Same with the semi-strawman comment I erected earlier. They can't respond by telling me that they do not care about what I care about, because them commenting about it proves them wrong to some extent. But this doesn't matter. This is why I asked in the comments for an example of something that does matter. I hate this kind of argumentation. You can always point to something else that is more important than the thing being discussed. Should we all just stop making videos because there are two armed conflicts happening in the world right now, in which many people are losing their lives? No, because that's always going to be the case. You can always point to something else that actually matters to deflect from a conversation. But if we are to ignore everything I said up to this point, and take up her position, well then what the fuck are we doing? Why are we wasting our time talking about video games at all? Why are there all these videos out there that people are putting several hours into, when at the end of the day, we only like them because we grew up with them and it doesn't even matter? Only in discussions about video games can somebody say something like that and have it be taken as a serious argument. Try telling somebody that the only reason why they think The Godfather is a better movie than, oh, I don't know, Baby Boss is because of nostalgia. Try telling somebody that Big L is respected more than the Megatron rap guy is simply because of nostalgia.
There's no comparison, son, just embarrassing. I'm running with some of the baddest men in the whole New York. We hold the fort while you clap classes holding, player hating, pushing stolen whips. We at the dice game holding trips.
Now I'm with SpongeBob, racing down the Autobahn while I'm in the backseat trying to fuck Megatron.
Out of town throwing bricks, taking over, cooking up coke with baking soda. I buy hot jewels and ice it down while you go to the jewelry store with short dough trying to bring the prices down.
Pull up into Chevron, rob that bitch in Klingon, hop back in that Nissan, driving huffing Freon. Meanwhile, Patrick's like, can we listen to Trey songs?
Try arguing that Watchmen is only considered to be a better comic to this random issue I pulled from my collection because I grew up with Watchmen and not this comic that I bought when I was a child. I have found it very hard to find the will to watch one of her videos where she discusses games now because, well, you told me it didn't matter. What's the point about discussing Tears of the Kingdom if in 20 years some kid is just gonna say we like it because of nostalgia? The only reason why we enjoy it now is because in 20 years we would have played it in the past. Truth is, it only doesn't matter because she doesn't care. Not about discussing games in general, but about whether or not these games might have something over these new ones. Fully 100% removing your personal bias from the equation when discussing literally anything isn't possible, but that does not mean that every opinion is drenched in personal bias. Appreciating a game isn't the same thing as liking it. You can still not love Super Metroid. It even hurts to say it. You can not love Super Metroid but still appreciate it. You don't have to hide behind the fact that you were born after the game came out, because that's not as relevant as you think it is. I can appreciate what the original Dragon Quest did for JRPGs, but I can also say that I don't really like the game that much, and that future games do pretty much everything better than it. Even people that actually like that game would probably agree. I played both of these games for the first time last year. I had played a bit of Ocarina throughout the years, but it was usually only the first hour or so I really didn't get a true taste for the game. I enjoyed both of these games quite a lot, but I do think I might prefer Ocarina a bit more. Tears is a great game, its scale is fantastic, it has a ton of stuff that I could still do in the game, but I prefer Ocarina's dungeons, its progression, and its characters. The camera and controls are better in Tears, but I prefer how the swordplay works in Ocarina. I like what they do with Zelda more in Tears, even though it's kind of a cliche at the end. Both of these games are great, both have strengths and weaknesses. The discussion is important. To me anyways. It's important to others as well. Why is that? We aren't going to learn much about what worked and didn't work from these games if we don't talk about it. Moving forward, Zelda is most likely going to stick to this new formula. They can do that while also learning what worked better in these older games. The temples in Tears were better than the ones in Breath of the Wild, but they can still be improved upon. The sense of progression isn't as strong as it is in the old games, not really getting any true upgrades past the first couple of hours. It is much easier to understand what makes a game enjoyable over other games if we discuss things. I understand that there is a lot of people that will just because you don't like the certified hood classics, but that's not a good enough reason for you to say that none of it matters at all. This is the third video in this unintended trilogy. I like talking about these sort of things. I find value in doing so. I made a game in high school for one of my classes, and then made a sequel in college just for the fun of it. I revisited the game a few weeks ago and instantly came up with several things that I would do differently. The reason for that is because of videos like these. It's due to the fact that I think way more about design than I did back then. Also, having a fully formed brain helps. You gain like 75 IQ points when you turn 25 for some reason, it's weird. Like I said in my previous video, I understand that most people don't care about this sort of stuff at all and just want to play what they want to play and move on. Same way that most people don't care about films the way I do. They'll just watch whatever's new and move on with their lives. I don't think that most people would agree with the sentiment that film analysis doesn't matter or that discussing film is pointless because it's all just based on what we liked as children.